Okay, we're back. This is the second part of the advanced rigging tutorial for RageTools Pro and Rage Suite. So in this video we're going to talk about how to properly set up your image, how to define your cutout shapes, which are the shapes that actually define your sprites, right? Imagine that as a kind of a bounding box. How to set up materials, how to prepare the hierarchy, the pivots, controllers, IK, and switch groups. Yeah, bunch of stuff. So let's get to it. I have already created this empty new project and imported Rage Suite, which comes with all our three components. And we have the finished scene here just as a reference, but we're rebuilding everything from scratch. So I've placed here the atlas image and a reference image, which will help us rebuild our shapes. Okay, there's obviously another way of doing that. We have another video showing a process using a pivot tools macro called clone UVs, and we're always investigating new ways to make all this process easier. But this is just not using any SVG. Okay, this is using straight textures and building everything up inside Unity, which some people might prefer. So to start with, let's check out the atlas. And the first thing you guys will notice is that if you click right here, you can see just the alpha, and you probably notice that the alpha of many parts is different from the actual solid color part, which is the optimal way to do this. Okay, you actually bleed your color textures, and whenever you have open colors like those, or else you might have blending problems when superimposing, so you just extrapolate a bit. You know, you go a bit further from the edge, and only the alpha actually cuts it out, right? If you try to apply both at once, you might run into problems. Although Unity 4.2 presents a new pre-multiplied checkbox that allows you to dodge this concern completely. So the first thing we need now is to actually set up the material for that. Okay, just as a side note, as an important side note, if you use SVG in, okay, we now have a shortcut for that, Control-Shift-I or Command-Shift-I on the Mac. So if you have SVG in and you import an SVG coming from another program like Illustrator or Inkscape, you now have the possibility to enable the textures alpha option. And what this guy will do is when you're importing an image, it's going to automatically apply the proper material for you. Okay, so if you just bring your atlas as an image to Inkscape and draw your shapes on top of those, you know, like rects or some polygonal shapes, and you bring it in using SVG in, just enable that setting and it's going to work. So in our case, since we're building from scratch, we won't do that. Let's start with the rectangle. Okay, just right here on the filter, and it'll take you to raise spline prefabs, and you find the rectangle as a suitable starting shape. Okay, let's just place it here. I reset its position so it's exactly at the center of the world and the camera sees it. The default position of camera sees it. Okay, and now that we have, of course, a raise spline here, we can actually apply an image. But if you just select the texturing as fill, okay, you see the positional gizmo, but you don't have in the material any option to drag and drop your image here. So what we need is to use another material. To find it, I'll just type raise spline here, add the filter box to speed things up, and then you can see there are many materials here. You can just click on this X box, so it brings you to the right folder, and you can see the other related materials. Okay, the one we want is raise spline material texture TP. If you select it, you can notice that the shader is actually raise spline textured alpha transparent, which is the one we want, so that's fine. So what I want to do is to simply duplicate it and rename it to Cyber Hacker Material. Okay, and now let me move it to the proper folder. Just leave it in here, and now I can simply drag it to the proper field here in mesh handler of the rectangle. Okay, so just drag it here. You could just drag it straight to the object since there's only one mesh filter, it would automatically apply to the right field. Okay, so with that done, we can now select the material and fill in the texture field. Just drag your Atlas image here. And some of the settings that you might be interested on, I'll show you. You can see there are many options that you can set. Okay, if you select the advanced mode, that gives you the most control. I usually make sure that I have the border bitmaps option and the wrap mode, clamp, trilinear. The initial level might help in some cases, not on flat textures like those, like seen isometrically, and that's the maximum size that you use. I just apply it and that's enough. Okay, so this is just a sample point for you guys to start from. Obviously this is a quite in-depth topic that you might want to research more, since it relates to the final size of your project, how much the texture is gonna take, etc, etc. So this is just a starting point. Okay, so here in the rectangle I definitely wanted to take the right size, so I can simply add the group. I'll hit Ctrl-Shift-G, could be Command-Shift-G if you're on the Mac, and then I right click here and select UV Fit. Both options here would work since it's a square texture. Okay, so just select it and it's already automatically fitted, right? So now that we're with our base rectangle with the Atlas, we can have another one with the reference image. Okay, so let me just rename this one, make it Atlas. I'll duplicate this guy and I'll call the second one reference. What I want now is to duplicate this material, Ctrl D again, and I'll name it as ref, and leave it everything as is except for the image is gonna be this one. Now I have reference taking the right material. Let me just drag it in here, material ref. Okay, and there you have it. Obviously, since the texture is not proportional, it's stretching out. In this case, the best option would be to simply edit the reference image so that it's a square image. Okay, so let me do this quickly. I'll just pause here for a second. Okay, so I quickly adjusted the canvas size of the image inside Photoshop, and just as a point of comparison, you can see that this is a simple PSD image with just a regular Photoshop transparency, and you can easily notice the right fringe, which is a result of the white color, which is flattened against when exported, related to the transparency channel. Okay, this is the kind of thing you get if you're on Unity 3.5 or on earlier Unity 4 versions and you're not careful. Okay, and you can probably see that we have some bleeding problems which just occur when the bitmaps kick in. A good chance to show you guys exactly why it's not good to snap things so close to the edges. Okay, you can also notice that even in the image itself, that when you just simulate the bitmaps, the generated bitmaps, that you get white potentially leaking to your actual solid areas, which will give you that fringe effect. Okay, so just something to be aware of and to take care of. Okay, we have the Atlas spline done. What we want to do now is to simply have very basic shapes that will define our sprites area. Okay, so let's do this by simply dragging a new rectangle, and let's just select this shape, make it have no outline, no fill, or we can just keep temporarily an outline so we can see something as we shape it up. Okay, so the trick is to simply move the points. Actually, I won't change its position. Let me just reset it. I hit H, the keyboard shortcut H, so it's gonna hide the control handles. Okay, and then I can simply drag those points around. So let's start from top to bottom clockwise. Start with this guy here. Let's get close to it. Yeah, probably reduce this even further. Let me remove the anti-aliasing so it's just the outline, and we could use a slightly more visible color, probably that. Okay, so I just shape around what I want. It doesn't need to be a square. Definitely you can use whatever shape you want. In such a case you can't use just 4 points, so simply add extra points like so, and make sure you can encompass your entire shape. That's pretty much it. This would be the color piece, so just name it color and duplicate it, and then move the points to the next shape, which is the hand. So I just move these two guys. I could just remove this one. I would just shift backspace to use the old style removal, and this would be the right hand. And just duplicate it, and once again move the points. If you want to make it square, no problem. Okay, I'm just showing that you can use whatever shape you want. You're not restricted to a quad as in other sprite management solutions. Okay, so this would be the left hand closed. Okay, this is actually right hand closed. Okay, just duplicate it again. Let's encompass the head now. Add some points. Gotta be really careful here. Here you can notice that it does pay off to be careful when you're laying out your shapes in Photoshop, so that you don't have to spend so much time. I mean, if everything was squared, I would quite simply just duplicate rectangles and reshape them. It's a good rule of thumb to not rescale your shapes or to reposition them, but if you do, it's no big deal. You can simply add the pivot tools and click freeze rotation and scale. So I'm just gonna pause the video as I do the other parts.